displaying the glory of God's creation by exploring America one park at a time. Welcome to Parking Full Time with Big Dave, the park's professor. 10th hole. The par and distance are at the top of the screen. This hole plays moderately downhill, and it starts out very open, although there are a large number of small trees directly in front of the basket. You can either go around to the left of the trees, or you can try to pick your way through the trees. The choice is yours. We had some sun interference, and so we're jumping down to the trees in front of the basket. This hole is much shorter and easier than the actual first hole, and from talking to some locals, I learned that some people choose to play the back nine first, so that they start with this hole rather than the first hole. The 18th hole also has to do with that decision, and I'll talk about that when we get to the 18th hole. The 11th hole is another downhill hole. It is a fairly long par 4, but again, because of the downhill, it does not play nearly as long as the distance would indicate. The fairway is very wide. A few trees dot the fairway, but there's plenty of room to accommodate a wide variety of shot shapes. Also, this hole is a gradual dogleg right. There is some dense woods on the inside of the dogleg, and that's what you see downhill to the right. But again, there's plenty of width to this fairway, and so staying in the fairway really shouldn't be a problem here. We are at the Mayflower Hills Disc Golf Course. We are at Explore Park on the southeast side of Roanoke, Virginia. So we're in the mountains of western Virginia. We're coming up to the basket now. This is a long hole, but it's fairly open, so it's really not that hard of a hole. There's the 11th basket. And there's the view back to the tee from behind the basket. Now we plunge down into the heavily wooded ravine for the 12th hole. This hole starts on an elevated tee that's perched on the north side of the ravine. We're going to jump down to the bottom of the ravine, and then we're going to walk up the bottom of the ravine, slightly uphill, in order to get to the basket. There are a lot of trees in play on this hole. You saw the narrow gap right in front of the tee, and there are more trees once you get down here to the fairway. This hole is a real par 4. 4 is a very good score on this hole. Let me say a word about the distances at the top of the screen. Most holes on this course have 3 tees, a blue back tee, a white middle tee, and a red front tee. And those 3 tees are the reason for the range of distances I'm giving you at the top of the screen. All of these video clips start at the middle white tee, and therefore the actual distance that you're seeing on this video is generally somewhere in between the 2 distances you see at the top of the screen. We're finally getting up close to the basket now. There's this small stream off to the right of the basket, and there's still plenty of trees around here. This is a real hard hole, probably the hardest hole on this course. The 13th hole plays steeply uphill out of the ravine. It also has a sharp left to right cross slope, and if you miss to the right, your disc could bounce or roll a long distance down into the dense woods. I suggest a right to left disc flight in order to keep your disc left of the basket, and also to minimize the impact of the cross slope. There's the 13th basket, and there's the view back to the tee. The 14th hole is another super long par 4. It plays slightly downhill, and it is super long, super open, and quite frankly, super boring. While I appreciate the simplicity of this hole, honestly, this is probably my least favorite hole on this course. I captured this video on Sunday, November the 3rd, and it was a beautiful fall day with temperatures in the mid-60s when I came here. There were quite a few other disc golfers out on the course when I captured this video. Some of those players were not particularly skilled at throwing a disc, and even though this is a very long and very challenging course, it is actually the first course to earn the highest ranking that I give for difficulty in my course reviews. But the less skilled players, they were still having a really good time out here. So you can enjoy this course even if maybe your score isn't that great. We're finally getting up close to the basket. Some holes on this course have 2 baskets, There's a blue alternate basket that you see off to the right of the screen, but all these video clips we're going to walk to the main yellow basket. There is the 14th basket. And there's the view back to the tee from behind the basket. Now we head back into the densely wooded ravine for kind of the last time. The 15th hole is the steepest downhill hole on this course. It's very tight and it has kind of a low ceiling, but you don't need to throw your disc nearly as far as you think because of the downhill. We're going to jump over the steepest of the downhill here and then walk over to the basket. I was actually sitting behind the basket near the 16th tee, and I had a couple of errant discs go whizzing by my head because the players didn't take into account the downhill. There's the 15th basket and the view back uphill to the tee. The 16th hole plays steeply back uphill out of the ravine. There are a couple of possible lines of play, and we're going to walk the line of play that goes to the right. But both lines of play are really tight, and you're going to need a right to left disc flight on either line of play, partly because this hole is a slight dogleg left, and also because there's a pretty severe left to right cross slope on this fairway. The basket was actually in the shorter of the two possible positions. The longer position is further uphill to the left. There's the 16th basket, and there's the view back to the tee from behind the basket. We're back on top of the ridge for the 17th hole. This hole plays slightly uphill. It starts out very open, but the basket is actually directly ahead, well into this cluster of trees. I do want to thank you for watching. Parking full time would not be anything without the people who watch. I realize that every day, and I heartily thank you every day. As I mentioned, the basket is in this cluster of trees up here to the right, and it's a really tight chute in order to get back to the basket. And therefore you have to curve your disc in with just the right angle in order to get through these trees and get close to the basket and set up a birdie opportunity. The 18th tee is down some stairs to the right, by the way. And there's the view back to the tee from behind the basket. The 18th hole is the last hole on this course. It plays uphill along the bottom of a ravine, and this is a different ravine than we saw earlier on this course back on the 12th and 13th and also 15th and 16th holes. This hole is not super tight, but there are plenty of trees that you're going to have to maneuver your disc around in order to get up the fairway on this hole. This hole is a slight dogleg left, and the incline starts out pretty gradual, but it's going to get pretty steep when we get up close to the basket. I mentioned earlier that some people play the back nine first because of this hole, and the reason for that is to get this hole out of the way so that you don't have to finish on this hole. This is a real monster of a hole, and if you have a pretty good round going, it can really wreck your score if you don't play this hole well. I also want to remind you that I do not make any monetary compensation for anything that I do for this project, and therefore the only thing that I get for making these videos and writing up these blog entries are your likes, your subscribes, your views, and your comments, and I do appreciate all of those things. We're finally up to the 18th basket, and you see how steep this hill is. And there's the view back down the fairway from behind the 18th basket. That is the end of the course. Have a great afternoon, take care, and Lord bless.